Okay, well, if you're like me and have a nearly 20-year-old Rover 75 with yellow or dulling headlights, let's see if in about an hour we can go from this to this. Okay, it's fairly aggressive, but I found it to be pretty successful, so I'll lead you along in the process. Right, so first up, here's the headlight out of the car. I've given it a good wash to wash off any road grime and crud, and now I'm going to hit it with a grinder, with a sander, an orbital sander here, a random orbital sander with 400 grit paper. And what you're trying to do is to just get all the old crazing off the lenses. Okay, it's pretty aggressive, but it's one easy way to do it. Okay, so that's after hitting them with the 400 grit paper on the orbital sander. I'm just now going to just wipe them down just with some water to just check to see whether I've got all a consistent scuffing of the surface. These don't look too bad, but I might give them one more go, and then we'll move on to the next step. Right, so now that I've done that, the next step is I'm getting some 240 grit wet and dry paper, and I'm going to give them a good rub over with the 240 grit just to scuff them up a bit more. Then I'm going to do the same thing with 400 grit, then the same thing with 800 grit, and then finally 1500 grit. So I'll get on and do some sanding. Okay, so there it is after the 240 grit. So it's pretty dull, but it's also fairly even. There's no signs of any scratches in them or anything like that. So now I'm going to hit it with the 400. Okay, so that's now after I've hit them with both 400 and 800, and they're gradually starting to get smoother and smoother. You can feel it under your hands if you're doing it with wet and dry, very wet. Now I'm going to do it with 1500. Okay, so that's it now after being hit with the 1500. You could even go to a 2000 if you wanted to. Now I'm going to hit it with some wax and grease remover just to rub over the surface, and this will give me a pretty good idea as to what sort of a job I've done. Okay, so now the wax and grease remover, and you can see that it's going to come up pretty good. This is not the final, but from this you can see whether you've sanded out all the scratches and any blemishes or anything like that. So I'm just going to let that dry on the surface. Yes, I'm going to be restoring this tired old girl, well, not that old, it's 2002 Tourer. And yes, I've got another one in the back there, that's my wife's car. I've done the lights on that. I've got yet another one outside, and another one here, and there's another one out the back as well. This was my daughter's car, but she thought it was too big for her, so she's downgraded, I think, to her sorrow, but still. And but let's get on and finish these lights. Okay, so they've been let dry for about 20 minutes with the wax and grease remover still on there. And now I'm going to hit them with some of this. This is the Magic Potion Duplicolor Clear Coat. Okay, so I'll give it a good coat with that. It's very, very runny. It'll drop down, but one coat I find is enough. Okay, I'm going to hit it with that now. We'll see the results. Okay, so that's the result after hitting it with just one coat of Duplicolor. I have been doing it with 2 coats lately, but I think 1 coat's more than sufficient. I haven't quite finished the process yet, but I'll explain that as we move on. But that's pretty much the final result. We'll get a little bit better soon. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry for probably about an hour, just to make sure it's good and hard. And I've put the lights on it just to sort of help it dry a bit better. It's about 8 degrees here today in the shed, so a little bit of heat won't hurt it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the result. There's a couple of minor blemishes in it. I don't know whether we can actually see it with this, but I probably should have hit it with a anti-static cloth or some anti-static before I applied the clear coat, because it looks like one little piece of dust or whatever had got on it, but it's pretty insignificant really. Right, well the next step is to now hit it with some cutting compound. Okay, so this is equivalent of probably at least a 4000 grit. I'm going to do it with the little foam pad on the drill, because there are some very minor little scuffs in there, and hopefully this will take them out. Righto. So there's the cutting compound on the lenses now, and I'm just going to start with the drill. Okay, so after the buffing compound, the cutting compound, it's left them pretty near perfect. There's some minor blemishes in them, but certainly a hell of a lot better than before. Right, well the last step, or next to last step I suppose, is I'm going to put some wax on them. I'm going to use this one, the Brazilian Canuba wax, and that's applied with a damp microfiber cloth. Previously I'd used this Supreme Soft Wax. I'll turn it around, but I think the Canuba wax might give me a slightly harder finish, and that should also give it the UV protection that it needs. The clear coat will give it the UV protection as well, and I've got to admit I can't more highly recommend this stuff, this Duplicolor Clear. It's only a small can, 4.5 ounce. It was about $15 I think, but I've done probably 5 or 6 sets of headlights now, and there's at least half a can left. So it's pretty economical. Okay, so that's it after the liberal application of the Canuba wax. I don't think I could be much more happy with the result. They've done really well. So that's what they look like, and this is what they're like now. almost as good as new. Set of LED bulbs in there now, and we'll be on the road. That should give me a fairly good protection now for probably 12 months or more, and then all I should need to do is just apply a bit more wax. And maybe this girl here will get some wax on her eventually too. We paid $1,500 for this one. It's done about 145,000 Ks. It's in really good condition. I suppose I shouldn't tell you, but we paid $500 for this one. It's going to be my wife's car. It's in perfect condition, and it's got 112,000 Ks on the clock. The guy who we bought it off was quoted huge amounts of money because it wouldn't start and carry on, and it turned out to be a bad earth on the starter motor, and also we put a second-hand brake booster on it and bled all the brakes, and the brakes and everything now are perfect on it. Just waiting for registration. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll try and do some more later on. Thank you.